Something we talked about that before we came on camera was some of the trends in personal injury law. And I would say shocked, but I wasn't shocked. You're like, oh, wait a minute, there's money to be made. So there's some
Right.
weird practices going on and quotas and settlement goals. And I obviously can't explain it that well, but maybe you can. So I'd love if you would go into that a little bit.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've seen, that I'm seeing right now, and it's a disturbing trend, and I'll relate it to something else that I think everybody experiences, but it's private equity getting involved now in the law in America. So certain states are allowing private equity firms to become owners in the law firm. Historically, no non-lawyer could be an owner in the law firm. So in Colorado, like for example, if I were to pass away, my wife, who's an architect, she can't own my law firm. It has to pass to another attorney, and I have a succession plan and this whole thing in place. So, but now private equity in Arizona and I think Nevada is allowing, the states are now allowed these private equity firms to come in and now be owners in these firms. And so what it's doing is flooding the market with capital and making these firms even now more like pressure, settle, so that they can keep and feeding the beast and feed the private equity. And the best example I can give that's more personal to most people is like your veterinarian clinic. Almost all of them are private equity now. Your local vet got bought out. Your eye doctor got bought out. Your dermatologist has been bought out. They're buying out every possible type of profession they can because they see the ability to get more dollars. And because of the type of work we do in personal injury, they see, oh, there's a possibility of like, instead of making 10% margin, there's a higher percent margin on that. And as a result, what's happening is, I mean, I get calls every single week if I want to sell or I want to take private equity money. And the answer is absolutely fucking no. And I just refuse. And what it's happening, and you can see it now in Colorado in particular, but you're going to see it all across America, is more intrusion of personal injury lawyers into your life. Whether it's more freaking billboards everywhere, TV is already flooded with it. You're just going to see more of that because they're trying to grab that share of the market as best as they can. And what that does is it encourages sort of this bad behavior. Is rather than doing what's right for the client and what's right for the case, what they're going to do is it's pressure to settle as many cases as they possibly can, as fast as they can, for a value that's less than everything, right? And less than it's really truly worth. A good example is a dear friend of mine. We're just talking this past weekend, and there's this big firm that is everywhere. And what happened is the defense firm, my friend's a defense lawyer in this big firm, they've learned that these lawyers have quotas every single month, and these lawyers have to settle X amount of cases a month or they're in trouble and they get written up and it's a report or they get fired. And as a result, my friend's firm has learned just lowball them at the end of the month and they'll just take it. So even though the lawyers know, like my friend knows, like, well, this case is really worth $600,000, they're going to take probably 400 or 300 because they need to make their quotas. And so they're screwing clients out of the additional money because they got to feed the beast.
It's like every kind of sales person in a sales organization, you got quotas.
Exactly.
So how is it that a private equity, I would assume non-lawyers take over, I guess they could take over a vet clinic the same way. You don't know anything about animal medicine, but they're going to come in with, KPIs and all that. Like, we need you to do X, Y, and Z, but they have no idea how to arrive at that, right? Or is it just, here's the number, hit it?
Well, I think, in a vet clinic or in, whatever the service and profession is like you said, they don't know anything about veterinarian clinics, right? That what they know is that there's money to be made in that. And then they're trying to squeeze as much as they can out of, Fluffy goes in, right? And now all of a sudden the services are more. So that procedure, instead of costing with your vet before $100, now it's $150 or $200. Yep. And then they're squeezing more out of the vet. So instead of the vet having his own practice, some sold them to their benefit, and there's maybe some advantages to this. But generally speaking, it's to the detriment of, the client or or the vet or the pet or whoever, right? Because it then is money, 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 money. Rather than quality, they're going for quantity. Rather than taking the time to figure out what's going on and try to how to get more money out of the case for, like in my example, how to get more for our clients, you're just a number. And they're just trying to slam you out as fast as you can. And it doesn't mean they have good procedures or policies either. It's just, it's a nightmare.
That's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy.
It's not. You're right.
I mean, private equity seems like it's everywhere, and now it's in law firms, and they're trying to squeeze you out.
And it's deeply disappointing, and it affects, at the scale that we are. I don't take in thousands of clients a month, right, or thousands of clients a year. We're 10 cases a month, so we know who you are, we know what's going on, we know how to make sure you're getting the right care and treatment. But when you're bigger and you're going through that kind of firm, they don't know who you are, and worse, they have such a churn of people that are in this firm because they just can't keep up. And so it becomes like sales quotas. And that is just not a way to be a professional or be a vocation. It just isn't. That's not what the veterinarian signed up for. It's not what the orthopedic surgeon signed up for. And it's certainly not what I signed up for as an attorney.
Everybody has a number? Like if they were like
$0.
Or is it like, you prefer doing what you're doing, so there is no number?
Yeah, there is no number. I mean, long term, sorry, Tommy, I'm going to tell you this. Tommy or Michael, I'd love for them to take over my firm. And someday, if there's a number,
legacy,
for them,
right?
Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. And here's the thing: is like, I do well. We do well by our clients, which means I do well. I don't need more and more and more.
Right.
Right. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of my peers, they are just driven by more. I was at a conference recently, and I was kind of blown away by the number of cases my peers were taking in. But then we started talking numbers, and the value of their cases are like a tenth of the value of my cases. And so they're working on so many cases, and we're working on just quality, really working to try to get as much as we can out of these cases so that our clients have a chance of a decent recovery. And they're about numbers, even though they're small and good people. I like these firms. They're not private equity, but
yeah.
It's this more, and it just, to me, life's too short.
So you work on, obviously a lot of time in the courtroom working on cases. Yeah. That's not all you do. You spend a lot of time in front of lawmakers trying to help laws get passed here in Colorado, or I would assume maybe nationwide. Some of them that have been passed recently are the lane filtering law here in Colorado, went to effect August 7th, I believe. And then we did discuss is that part of the new, there's a distracted driver law with Coloradans organized for responsible driving.
CORD. Yeah.
CORD, yeah. So there's that one, and then there's the filtering law.
Yeah.
From your seat here in a law firm, I mean, what have been some interactions or some things that have developed because of those laws that you, I think, helped to get passed?
So to be clear, I did not help with the filtering law.
Okay.
I was always asked for my blessings on those laws. I'm not a lobbyist. I don't make my living off of lobbying in front of Congress. I do it as a volunteer.
As an expert witness?
No, usually...
circling back.
Yeah, circling back, yeah. Usually it's from the expert position of, hey, here's what my clients are experiencing, and here's why this law is important for them to pass. That is an example of the distracted driving bill. So the hands-free bill is our kind of shorthand term for it. So Susan Dane and a whole bunch of other groups all kind of got together, and I was kind of the attorney that worked with them, the only personal injury lawyer that'd be in any of these hearings, any of these meetings, literally help write the law. And the whole purpose of that was to keep people safe on the road. Right. And the reason my peers aren't in the room is that's not in their best interest, right? They want to make money. There's going to be plenty of cases. There's going to be plenty of stupidity. How can we save lives? And working with Susan Dane and others, I mean, it took us 7 years to pass that law, the distracted driving bill. And it finally goes into effect this coming January 2025. But it will have an immediate impact if it does what it does in other states. In the next 2025 alone, it will save 10% of the fatalities that happen on the road.
Oh, wow.
And in Colorado, that ends up being close to 50, 60 people that will be alive next year. That's better for everybody.
Right,
like,
right.
And you know, there's different organizations that I belong to as a lawyer that are not happy with me when I'm there doing these things, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is supposed to help save,
Yeah.
or it will help save lives.
Yes.
Just like a big, I guess, thing about lane filtering
Yeah.
with motorcycles, that's supposed to help save lives as well.
Absolutely.
And I think you have a case right now, or where it did, or whatever, that somebody.
Yeah,
got rear-ended
we
or-
have a whole bunch of them right now that would have been avoided. The accident would have been avoided completely had they filtered. And these accidents occurred this summer, so the filtering law had passed. And you know, as you and I know, and you've done some great episodes on this, and really great camera footage of showing what lane filtering really is and how the law applies. So please check that out. It's really important because you show it perfectly, and I love seeing it. I've been seeing it perfectly executed all over the place, and I just love it. But a good example is a client who's sitting at Broadway, kind of near downtown, near the stadium. He pulls up, and you know, it's that section where there's like 3 or 4 lanes, and he's sitting in his lane, just kind of waiting for traffic to go at a stopped light. He's got a GoPro helmet on, or a GoPro camera on, and all of a sudden he's up in the air. He gets hit from behind. He goes down. This guy then smashes into another car and then pulls out. Thank gosh, there were some people right there on the street, drag my client out of the way because he almost ran the guy back over as he fled the scene.
Oh, wow.
Now, if he had filtered, which he was aware of filtering, he would have been up in the front of the line and he wouldn't have been touched at all. I mean, that's really what filtering is made for. And it's set up to kind of get you out of that dangerous situation where statistics around the country and now around the world for where filtering occurs, it does have a dramatic reduction in fatalities from people getting rear-ended on their motorcycles. And I think it's important. And then, you know, on the flip side, we've seen people that are freaking the fuck out over people filtering.
Right.
And road rage. And so we have 2 cases right now where our clients legitimately filtered, didn't do anything wrong, and then people running them down after the light. It's the craziest thing. And one person even getting run down, and the old man coming out of the car after he ran him down as my client's on the ground and says, "That'll teach you to do that next time." I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
I mean, and fortunately, there was enough witnesses that stuck around. There's no GoPro, there's no camera on that one. But there was enough witnesses stuck around that, you know, that old man got arrested. He's going to jail.
So wait a minute. So I'm at a stoplight,
Yeah.
motorcycle rides up beside me. I'm going to chase that person down, almost kill them, knock them off their bike.
Yes.
That'll teach you.
That'll teach you. Came around the back of his car on the ground. That'll teach you to filter, or, you know, he didn't use filter, but teach you to
Right, of
cut the
course he did.
line, whatever
Yeah,
you know, what the fuck he said.
That
And
is
so
wild.
it's just crazy. And so we have, unfortunately, this summer we have a couple of those. And, you know, we need, that's why we just need more, you know, PSAs. There's more stuff out there. You've got them probably too, all this stuff. We got some CDOT, and we're trying to give as much information so that people know how to do it right. The people that are splitting and doing it on the highway and doing it wrong, that's just bad for everybody. It's not legal in Colorado, and they're going to screw it up for everybody. I know there's people out there that want to do it, but if you really want it, do it right the first time for the next few years, because this law sunsets in, I think, 3 years.
Right.
And so if it doesn't show any net benefit, they're just going to let it go.
Well, you mentioned like 5 times. So, and we talked about this originally, our first discussion, but, you know, I run cameras all the time. So the interesting thing about that is I used to run camera on all the time when I'm riding a bike. And then you're just like, now I have, you know, 200 hours of footage where I do this.
Right.
So I just, if I'm out in the mountains, I'll turn it on. Some places turn it off, but it comes down to riding with cameras. And I think your opinion or what you've seen is it can go both ways, right? So
For sure.
What would you tell folks about riding with cameras?
I think you should ride with a camera. I think we're getting to the stage in Colorado and in America in general, we're turning into the Russians, right? Where it seems like there's all those crash footage everywhere.
And they're great.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. We can't help but watch
it's
it.
Like a bear comes out. And then,
exactly. Deer jumps over a car. You know, whatever it is. So we're getting to that point where I think pretty much everybody should have a dash cam. We don't have the kind of fraud that California, Florida, and some of the other states have right now with these people like literally backing into you, and on a street and trying to claim you rear-ended them. So we're not there yet, but I have dash cams in my cars. I certainly I have an old GoPro, but I would update mine, from my motorcycle. But I think it's worth having. It is a careful what you wish for. If you're racing the Porsche next to you and you get hit by somebody making a left-hand turn in front of you and you're going 70 and a 30,
Right.
I can't help you. But it's there to protect you in the event that something happens. Yeah.
Here's the question, and I know your answer, but it's worth asking again. I think I know your answer, and it's going to be based on an experience you had. I think the problem, or what we think about, is like, I get in some sort of motorcycle car scenario, and I know I'm not at fault, and I've got the footage, thank goodness. But when they look at this memory card,
yes,
what they're going to find from last weekend's ride in the mountains is hooliganism or whatever, right? So how has that played out for you in the past?
So kind of two stories. One was, ripping through a canyon, doing, some stupid things. Nothing bad happens as a result of the dumb things, but then slows down, enters into traffic somewhere, let's say like Golden. And then, this person makes a left-hand turn in front of him. So the left-hand turn in front of is all caught on video. Our guy gets catastrophically injured in that. They pull the CD, the scan card, and they see him ripping the canyon at 100 something. In that case, they did not charge him. They didn't do anything with it. I think what that does, though, is they already have a bias. Police already have a bias against motorcycle riders. They just kind of do. And they'll never admit it. And I tell them all the time when I speak in front of their groups, you do. And it is an issue. And having that footage doesn't help your case. Generally speaking, though, they're not going to, I haven't seen a client yet charged. Another example would be, a guy who was ripping way out on I-70 East, no traffic anywhere. He's got, footage of him going about 130. Then he gets off the exit, mind his own business at 35, and an old man hits him, right? And so the cops in that one did charge him for going 170. 130.
That's like 170.
Sorry, 170. Sorry. Yeah, that'd be impressive.
Was it on a Harley? No,
it was not on a Harley.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, he did get a ticket for that. And then they ticketed the old man for the separate thing, right? So he is essentially two different things.
Interesting.
But that's rare. Out of all the cases we had, that's the only one that I can think of over the years where a client got ticketed for the prior behavior.
I don't even know what to say, because I'm like,
I
got the footage, but I want to be careful.
And you're not in control of the footage at that point,
right?
Because they're looking, because you are incapacitated. They see that you've got the GoPro on your helmet, and they want to get video of the scene. And there's literally nothing you can do about it.
I would imagine that's
point.
Roped into now their procedures. In other words, I don't know, 15 years ago, whatever. I remember my first bike cam was the small boxy VHS, and I ran a cable to a little pilot cam that I zip tied to my blinker. But
was it beta?
It was awful. It was like a square,
Betamax square.
Yeah, and I'm like trying
hilarious.
to put Metallica to it. It's just back when they get off Napster. Anyways, not that I ever did. But back then it wasn't a thing, right? So maybe considering the footage, but now it's probably like, do they have a camera? Do they not? We take the card.
Yep.
To see what happened.
And a lot of times they take the card, and getting the card back ends up being a problem too later, because it ends up in evidence, and until the person who was charged for the careless, reckless, or whatever they get charged with, for a lot of them are left-hand turn in front of, or pulling out, or, taking the right away of my client, that scan card now is MIA for, could be months or a year depending on what happens.
So here's the question. I just thought of this. Maybe I do get pulled over on a motorcycle. It's never happened, by the way.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
and they see that I'm running a GoPro, and the whoever the police officer, sheriff, whatever is like, give me your camera.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm making up scenarios, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
in other words, if they just pull you over and like you were doing 10 or whatever, and like,
Yeah.
I want your camera.
Yeah.
Do you give it to them? Like what's the
No, to do that, and just to be clear, I'm not a criminal defense attorney.
hypotheticals? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
more importantly, this is not my area of expertise.
Right.
So in that scenario, there's no probable cause to take that. They have to have some reason for that search and seizure. There's no reason for a search and seizure of you just getting pulled over in a routine thing.
Okay.
Generally speaking. So. But another example of being used in a positive way is, we had a client we met with yesterday. We got this big screen across the conference room here. They brought in footage where it was a whole bunch of sport bike riders out on I-25, and they were just rolling. They were not blocking traffic. Traffic is driving in between. They're not taking up all the lanes. They're going the speed limit. Actually, looked like they were going probably right at the speed limit. Our client gets clipped from behind. It happens to get caught on camera. But the cops ended up giving all the biker witnesses who stuck around to protect her, all of them careless reckless for just being on the road as a group. And she has this footage that they're literally doing nothing wrong.
So she was on a bike too.
She's on a bike too.
Okay, yeah.
And she just happens to be behind. And she's kind of the front of the pack, but just like maybe 3 bikes back
Right.
in the front of the pack. And so it all gets caught on footage. But yeah, the cops give all these riders who were literally doing nothing wrong. Now, we've seen examples, and stop it, of the sport bike riders who go and there's 100 of them and they block I-25 and they do whatever. Terrible, bad for everybody. Stop doing that, illegal. But these guys were doing nothing wrong.
Right.
And it's an example of, what I told her is, there's a criminal defense lawyer that I told her to talk to for the group is just show this footage to the prosecutor. They got no case.
Right.
There's no reason they all should. There 10 of them got cited for careless reckless.
Is that the bias you kind of
It's the
referred
bias.
to? Yeah.
Yeah. And, I get it. They probably are assuming they were blocking traffic and trying to race and do wheelies and do whatever. Yeah, illegal. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, literally, they were doing none of that.
Wow.
And so I think it's an example of that. That's going to help them, and it's going to help them in their defense.
Okay. So one of the last things we talk about is road rage. We talked about that, and you've kind of alluded to a few stories, and we just talked about that'll teach you, run you over kind of situation. I think in every instance, it's not worth it, right?
Yeah.
But on motorcycles, we are vulnerable.
Totally.
And I don't care who you are, how big you are, whatever. If a car wants to swerve into you, it's not a good day.
That's right.
And road rage does happen. And I guess I would ask you for some of your either opinion, advice, and or what are some of the instances you've seen that have worked out or maybe not worked out?
I think you should assume in today's world, whoever is around you has lost their goddamn mind. Right? I mean,
Right.
seriously.
Yeah.
Right? I have a couple different examples. One is the one we just talked about, where my client does legitimate lane filtering. This old man loses his freaking mind, chases our guy down and knocks him off the road and hits him into a median, right? And then tells him that'll teach you. And another example is I have a friend who actually was in his truck, sees this guy doing road rage in a vehicle against 2 or 3 Harley riders. My guy tries to intervene and block out the other guy. This other guy that had the road rage started shooting at my friend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it gets to the point, like, we can't not intervene as a society, and we need to step up and take care of those who are vulnerable and those who need our care. But we have to be prepared that this person may lose their goddamn mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was telling this story to somebody the other day, and apparently some mutual friend of ours, and I think it's been in the news, and I'm sorry, I don't really know anything about it, but minor incident on the road, not even something you and I would think about, but this person followed this person to a place of business and then murdered her and her 2 kids. Like,
that is not where I thought that was going.
No, it's fucking crazy. And so that happened sometime this last year. I'm trying to keep it as vague as I can.
Yeah.
I don't want to affect this family, but I mean, horrific. So people, like, I've noticed whether it's Beamers or beaters, it doesn't matter. There's no type anymore. There's no profile. There's no nothing. People have lost their freaking minds. And I think I'm seeing it. You probably are on a regular basis. I mean, you're lucky you live in the safe interworld of the mountains, right?
Right.
But I'm here down in Denver, and I'm seeing people willfully running red lights, like just cutting people off. Like, where are you going? What is so freaking important that you got to go do that? And I can't explain it. I don't know what is going on. Like I said, there's no particular profile to it. Some people try to blame this demographic or that. It is not. It's just not the case.